Hello children, I hope you all are doing great. I'm back with another tutorial video and today I will be explaining a poem from your Beehive textbook. And the name of the poem is No Men Are Foreign, written by James Kirkup. Now before we start with the explanation of the poem, let me just give you a brief introduction about James Kirkup. James Kirkup was born on 23rd April 1980. He was an English poet, translator and a travel writer. He wrote over 30 books including autobiographies, monographs, novels and plays. He wrote under many pen names including James Faulkner, Aditya Jha, June Honda, Andrew James, etc. He started writing simple verses and rhymes at the age of 6. His skilled writing of haiku and tanka was acknowledged internationally. Many of his poems are based on his recollections of his childhood days, and we get to experience these in his works such as The Sense of the Visit, Throwback to the Ancestral Northland and Shields Sketches. Kirkup came to public attention in 1977 after one of the newspaper published his poem The Love That Dares to Speak Its Name. His hometown of South Shields now holds a growing collection of his works in the Central Library, and artifacts from his time in Japan are housed in the nearby museum. Kirkup won many accolades like Atlantic Award for Literature from the Rockefeller Foundation in 1950. He was elected a Fellow of the Royal Society of Literature in 1962. He won the Japan PEN Club Prize for Poetry in 1965 and the Scott Moncrieff Prize for Translation in 1992. In the mid-1990s, he won the Japanese Festival Foundation Prize for a book of tanka. He died in Adora on 10th May 2009. Now, what is the poem all about? The poem, No Men Are Foreign, portrays the concept of global brotherhood and equality. It focuses that although we live in different parts of the world, the concept of humanity is the same all over. When we are harming anyone, we are indirectly harming ourselves. And when we are harming another country, we are actually destroying our Mother Earth. The poem also focuses on the futility of war as it creates only destruction. Now we move on to the line-by-line explanation of the poem. Stanza 1. Remember, no men are strange, no countries foreign. Beneath all uniforms, a single body breathes. Like ours, the land our brothers walk upon is earth like this, in which we all shall lie. So, remember, no men are strange, no countries foreign. In the opening lines of the poem, the poet stresses on the fact that no men are strange, means nobody is unknown to us, and no country is foreign, which means that the whole world is one. No land on this earth is foreign to us. The borders that has been created by man should be abolished. Only then the whole world will be one. And no man on this earth would be treated as a foreigner or as a stranger. So, the whole world is one, and the people living on it belongs to one human race. Beneath all uniforms, a single body breathes. In the second line, the poet is speaking about different nationalities. Uniform means nationalities. So, he's speaking about the different nationalities all over the world. He suggests the idea that a single human body breathes like us beneath different nationalities, beneath different uniforms. Although the uniforms worn by the soldiers of different countries are disparate, are different, are varied, but inside these uniforms, the human being is the same. So, no human being is a stranger, is different. Like ours, the land our brothers walk upon is earth like this, in which we all shall lie. Then the poet says that the land, that is our mother earth, on which all of us walk, is the same. We will also lie in the same earth after our death. We will be cremated, we will be buried in the same earth. We may belong to different countries, but the earth on which our brothers and we walk upon is the same. So, we will all get united after our death, because we will all be buried under the same earth. Now we move on to the next stanza. They too, aware of sun and air and water, are fed by peaceful harvest, by war's long winter starved. Their hands are ours, and in their lines we read, a labor not different from our own. Who are they here? They here refers to the other people other than those living in our land, in our country. So, they too, that means the people whom we consider as our stranger or as foreigners, they too are aware of what the sun, the air and the water gives us, and water gives us. They whom we call as strangers or foreigners also use the same bounties of nature. And we all know that these three things are very necessary for our survival. They also consume these things. They also need air to breathe. They also need water for their survival. So, these are consumed and taken by every single human being on earth. So, how can one be different? How can one be a stranger to the other? We are all the same. Are fed by peaceful harvest, by war's long winter start. Now, the poet tries to portray the idea that difficult times and happiness has been witnessed by all the people living all over the world. nobody can say that they never experienced difficult times. Like the same way, nobody can say that they never experienced happiness in their life. The farmers all over the world are working for human beings, for their brothers who live on their land. And there are people all over the world who have starved themselves during difficult times, during war times, during winter. The reason behind this can be the scarcity of food, expensive food items during war. So, all the people living in whichever part of this world have led a peaceful life, have eaten the peaceful harvest of the farmers, grown by the farmers, and sometimes they even starved due to war, due to scarcity of food. Their hands are ours, and in their lines we read a labor not different from our own. We all have lines in our hand, in our palm. Similarly, there are lines on the palms of the others who live in different countries of the world. And the work or labor that we do with the help of our hands, they also do similar kind of activities with the help of their hands. So the work done by each and every person on this earth is the same. The work done by each and every individual all across the world for the society is the same. We all use our hands to do our work. So, how can we be strangers? How can we be foreigners? We are all same. Remember, they have eyes like ours that wake or sleep, and strength that can be won by love. In every land is common life that all can recognize and understand. The poet constantly reminds us that all human beings are similar. Now, he gives us an example of our eyes, which when we sleep are shut, and when we are awake it's wide open. And this is done by each and every person on this earth. Each and every person, when they are sleeping, they shut their eyes, they close their eyes, and when they are awake, their eyes are wide open. So, we have the same physical features. So, where are we different? And strength that can be won by love. And then he says that the strongest people can be won over by love. That means if we shower love on the other person is sure to render love to the one who's loving. So, we must love every individual, and in return, we will also get their love. And their strength can be won by our love. We might use their strength in a positive way. In every land is common life that all can recognize and understand. The poet tells us that, life is led in every corner of the world by each and every individual in the same way. We find the similar kind of emotions everywhere in this world. Love, hatred, anger. So, in such a situation where we find similar emotions, similar kind of life, how can people be strangers and foreigners? We all belong to one family. Let us remember, whenever we are told to hate our brothers, it is ourselves that we shall dispose, betray, condemn. Remember, we who take arms against each other, it is human earth that we defy. The poet tells us that whenever we are told to hate a person from another land, whom we consider as our enemy, we are only depriving or betraying ourselves. We are only degrading ourselves if we hate others. And when we have ill feelings towards other human beings. So, humans should love another humans all over the world. And then he tells us to remember that we who take arms against each other, arms here stands for weapons. When we take weapons, guns against each other, it is human earth that we defy. So, what are we doing? When we are fighting war against each other, we are only polluting our Mother Earth. Thereby, we are polluting ourselves who are living on it. Our hells of fire and dust outrage the innocence of air that is everywhere our own. In the process of waging war against another country, when we are fighting against another country, we are using bombs, we are using nuclear bombs, we are using weapons. And what are we doing? We are showing our hatred. And this is only creating destruction. Destruction, and it's insulting the innocence of the air. So, we must not commit any anti-human blunder that harms anyone. In the last line also, the poet tries to make us remember once again that we should not consider any man a foreigner and no countries a strange country, a foreign land. We all belong to one family. So let us see the poetic devices that we find in this poem. The first poetic device that we find in this poem is the rhyme scheme. The entire poem is written in free verse. There is no rhyme scheme in the poem. Next, alliteration. What is alliteration? The repetition of a consonant sound in two or more closely placed words is called alliteration. In this poem, we find two instances of alliteration. One, body breathes. So here the B sound is repeated, and worse winter. W sound is repeated. Next poetic device is metaphor. What is a metaphor? A figure of speech in which a word or phrase is applied to an object or action to which it is not literally applicable. Here we get two examples of metaphor in this poem. Number one, uniform. Here refers to the military of different countries, and wartime is compared to the winter season. Next, repetition. Here the word remember is repeated 5 times in the poem, and the first line is again repeated in stanza 5 in the last line. So the first line and the last line is the same, is the repetition of the first line. Enjambment. Running lines of poetry from one line to the next without using any kind of punctuation to indicate a stop. That means where we don't use a full stop to mark the ending of a line. Here we get innumerable examples of enjambment. Here I have mentioned only 2. So the first example that I have mentioned here is, remember they have eyes like ours that wake or sleep, and strength that can be won by love. In every land is common life. You can see all the 3 lines, and there is no punctuation mark here to indicate a stop. Let us remember whenever we are told to hate our brothers, it is ourselves. Here also there is no punctuation mark to indicate a stop. So with this, we come to an end of this chapter, and we should all remember that we all are one family, and it is our duty to promote unity in the community. Thank you. Stay home and stay safe.